One question for each game. Chargers are at the Chiefs. Heath, do you want to start any Chargers in this game?
I was just thinking about that, and the one that I do have some interest in is Amari Hampton, on the hope that he played 30% of the snaps last week because it was his first game back and not because he put on one of the worst pass blocking performances we've seen this season. And I think he could be a low end RB2. I think Ladd McConkey, if you have to start him as a wide receiver 3, is not the worst thing in the world. But I don't really I would feel better about my team if I didn't have to start any Chargers.
Yeah, well, that's because week 15 sucks. Yeah, McConkey, at least he has a good target share most weeks. They just have barely been throwing, but I'll talk about that more in a little bit. Buffalo's at New England. Jamey, who do you like better? It's a great matchup for Treveyon Henderson. Do you like him or Stephon Diggs, who has 2 duds in a row?
Henderson. I think the floor has kind of been established in the last 2 games with Ramondre Stevenson of 11 PPR points. The floor for Stephon Diggs could be 4. So Buffalo, I know, did not do well against him the first time around. I don't know how much that was just him in Buffalo, revenge game factor, play great. He's been very up and down. So I do think that Stephon Diggs can play well here. And obviously Treveyon Henderson could go either way. But I think we've seen the bad games, and the bad games, I think, have been somewhat safe with Henderson. Again, in the 2-game sample size with Stevenson back.
Green Bay's at Denver. Heath, rank RJ Harvey, Cortland Sutton, and Christian Watson.
I think you just did. I would go Harvey, Sutton, Watson.
Arizona at Houston. Heath, I'll go to you again. You think this is going to be a big game for Dalton Schultz? Great matchup.
I don't know that it's going to be a big game. I would view him as a borderline top 12 tight end. I think right now, I've got him ahead of Brenton Strange, and ahead of Goddard, and ahead of Ferguson, but not quite in the top 12.
All right, that is Dalton Schultz. Baltimore's at Cincinnati. Jamey, starter sit Zay Flowers, because we just saw this movie 2 weeks ago with DJ Turner shadowing him and doing a pretty good job. However, you did have the touchdown called back on a pretty iffy pass interference call, and Flowers was getting open against Turner for what it's worth. So starter sit Zay Flowers.
Starter in 3 receiver leagues, borderline starter in 2 receiver leagues. It's not just that game. It's the Bengals in the last 5 weeks. It's only 4 games for them, but 5 weeks. They are number 1 in fewest fantasy points allowed to opposing wide receivers. So they've been doing just a great job overall all season, really. I mean, it's a byproduct of tight ends killing them, run games killing them, so take that into account. But yes, DJ Turner's had a very solid season. And Zay Flowers, look, depending on the format that you play in, that would have only been his 2nd touchdown this year. He has not scored a touchdown since week 1. So we're talking about, again, the floor seems to usually be safe. I throw out what he did last game, but usually it's around 11, 12 PPR points, and that's been in some good matchups. So I don't think it's a slam dunk. You're starting him in 2 receiver leagues.
I think it also depends on how much better you think the Bengals offense is going to be than it was when these 2 teams played last time. Burrow threw 46 passes and only had 261 yards. If you think that the Bengals are a little more efficient offensively, I think we get a few more targets maybe for Zay Flowers.
He didn't have Higgins in that game, right?
He didn't have Chase, right?
Chase.
No, he didn't have Higgins.
Yeah,
you're right.
Missed the New England game. Higgins missed that game, and now Higgins is in the concussion protocol again. Flowers has 2 end zone targets, 1 green zone target, 3 red zone targets all year in the 10 games with Lamar Jackson.
And you just, again, you play this out, how the Ravens can use their tight ends, will use their tight ends, the production from their tight ends. They don't really need Zay Flowers to make this an offensive showcase for Lamar Jackson.
All right. And Raiders are at the Eagles. Heath, rank these guys: Ashton Genty, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith.
Once again, I would go in that order in full PPR. In non-PPR, Barkley would have definitely over Genty. And half PPR, Barkley definitely over Genty.
And I think, Jamey, you have Barkley over Genty in all formats.
Right? I have Barkley over Genty. Yeah, I think they're going to dominate time of possession, and hopefully this is a good enough game for Saquon.
Devontae Smith or Zay Flowers?
It's a Spider-Man meme. I'll take Smith.
I've got Flowers higher, but yeah.
You want to hear a stat on Devontae Smith? He's had 8 or more targets in 3 straight games. and he's been really bad in each of the last 2 games. But usually when he gets 8 or more targets, he is absolute money. And now I can't find my stat, but I think it's over the last 3 years, 15 of 21 times where he's had 8 or more targets, Devontae Smith has scored 14 or more PPR fantasy points, and it was 15 of 19 before the last 2 games.
You wouldn't really think this would be a high pass volume game for Jalen Hurts.
It was 16 of 19 before the last. No, I know that, but he's still getting a lot of targets lately. All right.
This should be, depending on how much he throws, but this should be a chance to get him right, after last week's disappointment.
You know what? The Raiders they're not that bad against quarterbacks. They're 17th against quarterbacks. They give up almost no big plays. One of the best in the league at preventing big plays. It's kind of strange.
And great against tight ends.
Yeah, and great against tight ends. But I think, we're probably going to start the Eagles pass catchers for the most part.
This could be a 2 passing, 2 push game for Hurts.
I didn't mean pass catchers. I meant Hurts and Brown. Yeah, Smith is obviously always tricky. All right, Miami at Pittsburgh. How much do you trust DK Metcalf, Jamey?
Well, first off, he's got to make sure he's healthy. It sounds like he's going to play, but I think you just treat him as you kind of have been. If he's been in your starting lineup, you continue to roll with it. I wouldn't get overexcited about last week, and this matchup is not exactly one I think where you have to say, "Oh my God, they're great." I know they've been good against receivers, but I think it's a byproduct of early in the season teams are running on them. So the Dolphins, I mean, I like the fact that they threw the ball downfield. They made that attempt. That switch. So he's a little bit better than he has been, but still a low end number 2 receiver at best.
So you guys, Heath, you talked about Harold Fannin Jr. as a player you love. Jamey, you talked about Woody Marks as a player you love. I assume you'd start those guys over Metcalf?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Last game, Jets at Jacksonville. Who do you like better, Breece Hall or Jacoby Myers? Heath.
Both of these guys terrify me, but I'll say Breece Hall.
Yeah.
I'll take Myers in PPR.
What's he like? The happy-faced killer?
You mean my dad? Be glad you never have to know.
You think that you're so much better than me. You're just like your old man.
I'm not like you at all.
Welcome back, everybody. One question for each game. Minnesota is at Dallas. Dave, is this finally the week for Justin Jefferson?
Well, when you say the week, do you mean the week where he becomes the stud first-round receiver that we drafted him to be?
I will take a second-round receiver.
I think he can get close to that. We've seen
about Jefferson.
The matchup is as good as you can get. So I will start him as a number 2 receiver.
13 receivers have at least 7 targets against Dallas this year. All of them have at least 14.7 PPR points. I remain encouraged by what I saw from JJ McCarthy last week, getting the ball out fast, offensive line protecting him. I think that there is definitely a real opportunity for Jefferson to have a good game.
Yeah, except Washington has no pass rush. The Cowboys have a better
They have
pass.
some pass rush. Yes, I agree. Their secondary, though, is not played well.
All right, Cleveland's at Chicago. So we've got Judkins, we've got the Bears running backs, we've got all the wide receivers in this game, mostly just from the Bears. We've got the tight ends. Jamey, who's the best flex in this game? Cleveland at Chicago.
Of all the players?
Yes.
Oh, it's a great question. I might go Fannin.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. How does a potential return of Odunze affect that?
It doesn't. It makes it, I think, worse because Odunze was not playing well, but then you have his just availability and participation is going to make things tough on Luther Burden. So I think if it's no Odunze, obviously I like Odunze better than Burden if he plays, but no Odunze just gives the opportunity for Burden to be, a little bit more upside.
Okay. Next game is Detroit at the Rams. Dave, start everyone?
I wouldn't start David Montgomery with a huge amount of confidence. And I wouldn't start Blake Corum with a huge amount of confidence either. So anybody else? Isaac Tesla, the DSTs. I really don't want any part of the DSTs. I think I gave you enough time to play the game of the week music.
Oh, I have been
You didn't
very
do it.
distracted. In case anybody hasn't noticed, I've been all over the place. I'm working on a special surprise for you, and I'm about 3 seconds away from having it. Okay, ready?
You need me to filibuster for like another 30
well,
seconds about this
ready?
game?
This is what I believe to be the original game of the week moment as sent in by a listener. And I thought we'd have a little trip down memory lane on this fun Friday. Here we go. All right, that's going to do it for the Raiders and the Broncos, which brings us to it's the game of the week, yeah. The Bills visiting the Ravens. Game of the week, yeah.
I think
Woo! Get the game of the week. All right, Buffaloes and Baltimore. Heath, what do you think about the game of the week song?
It's something.
There's one other that may have been before that I'll try to get a clip of for next show. But
I thought the one guy that sent it to us was.
Yeah, I couldn't. I was trying to find. I think that what I just played may have been second because the
guy that sent it to us was the first one.
Two people said that. Someone sent that to me also.
No, the other one that we discussed previously was the original.
I love how the listeners know and we don't.
I know they're amazing at what they can track
They
down.
are.
I'm going to
It was
send
the
this
guy that
one.
said he was mowing his lawn.
I'm going to send this one to. Yeah, I was okay. All right, I have that one too. I'm going to send this one to our producer.
That's the original one.
Ebo, and he's gonna, and we can play that one a little bit later. All right. Anyway, this is going to be a really good game, and you know, Detroit at Los Angeles should have great starts. Washington's at the Giants. Jamey, who are the top 3 running backs / wide receivers, or running backs or wide receivers in this game? Giants and Commanders.
I have McLaurin and Wan'Dale Robinson very close, so those two just to make it easy. And then I would probably go with Tyrone Tracy as the next best player over Deebo Samuel.
Okay,
I have it the exact same way.
wait, so McLaurin, then Tracy, and then Deebo. Is that what you said?
No, McLaurin, then Wan'Dale, then Tracy.
Okay. Let's see. Carolina's at New Orleans. Who's a better start, Rico Dowdle or Devin Neal, Dave?
I have Dowdle higher, but it's close.
You know what I was thinking, guys? What is the difference between Devin Neal and Woody Marks, right? Like, they both are averaging basically the same amount of carries. You look at the touches, it's pretty similar. Like last week, Woody Marks had a ton of touches, but usually is in the 18-ish range. And I would say no Nick Chubb, maybe he's higher than that. They both have really good matchups.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not bad. Maybe just a little bit more experience for Marks over Neal over the balance of this season. They're obviously both rookies. That helps. I could see Arizona's defense totally collapsing, whereas Carolina has given us, there have been games where they've had huge moments defensively. So I'm going to lean toward Woody Marks. I also think that Tyler Shuck could take numbers away from Neal, whereas I'd be less concerned about that with Bryce Young. Or I'm sorry, CJ Stroud. I don't know why I said Bryce Young.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud taking like rushing numbers and rushing opportunities away from Woody Marks. But every time I go to update my rankings, I find myself moving Devin Neal up, and up some more. Could be a top 20 running back by the time we get to Sunday. I'm kind of encouraged by what he's doing and the workload he gets.
I still think he has a Taysom Hill problem. He scored a touchdown last week. Taysom Hill handed it off to him. So there's always that. There would be a Nick Chubb problem at the goal line for Marks, but right now we're not expecting Chubb. So maybe that's the difference there. Colts at Seahawks. Jamey, how confident are you in Jonathan Taylor?
I'm not benching Jonathan Taylor. I'm not expecting Jonathan Taylor to be a top 5 running back and win me my week. So I have Taylor in 2 leagues. One's a Dynasty League. The other is our FFT Open League. And I'm really thrilled that I had Kyle Pitts in that same lineup.
Ooh.
Because like that's what Jonathan Taylor used to do, you know. And I think you just got to understand, like, it's a terrible scenario for him, because even if Daniel Jones was healthy, like we've seen it for the last month, he's been struggling, you know, with his production. You know, he's still leading the NFL in rushing yards. He's obviously having an amazing season, and you know, you hope to see him finish the season strong. But he's had some really tough matchups, and I wish they would throw him the ball in the passing game. Maybe Phillip Rivers changes that. But it's just like you're relying on a breakaway run, you're relying on a touchdown, and those things have been escaping him for the better part of the last 4 games. So I'm still starting him again because the workload in the town is too hard to overlook. But this is just going to be a brutal game. The Seahawks run defense is amazing.
Start 2 of 3 in PPR. ETN, Javonte Williams, Jonathan Taylor.
Sitting Taylor.
I'm sitting Javonte.
It's close between Javonte and Taylor, but I think
ETN's
I'd
easy
sit
one.
Taylor too. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Taylor, I've got him with 7 tough matchups. Denver, Rams, Raiders, Steelers, Chiefs, Texans, Jaguars. He scored 30 fantasy points in 2 of them. And the other 5, he scored 14.6 or fewer, including 2 like horrible duds. So
do you think Seattle's defense alters their plan because it's not Daniel Jones under center?
Yeah, they put 11 guys in their 12th man in the line of scrimmage.
They're great against the run regardless. All right, next game is Tennessee at San Francisco. Dave, what can Tony Pollard do for an encore?
11 carries for 38 yards and 1 catch for 5 yards.
We're not buying it.
Right? I really don't want to buy into it. He got really lucky on 2 runs against a Browns defense that just were out of position. And so if the 49ers are out of position again and just everything goes right, he'll have another big breakaway play. I don't want to take anything really. Look, Pollard looked good when he was running, but it was 2 big runs. He doesn't do that very often. I would be very surprised if he had another huge game. And it has nothing to do with the matchup. It has everything to do with him.
Okay. Yeah, and
his situation. I shouldn't say just him. Everything with his situation.
Right. On his 56-yard touch, whatever it was
like
really long touchdown run. Yeah, 3 Browns fell down. It was like bowling. Okay.
They got the memo.
What's that?
They got the memo.
They got the call.
I hate when you say that. I hate that almost as much as when you curse.